Did you know that in World Trade Center 7 they had a tremendous amount of paperwork and files that were built up because they were about to prosecute Enron and WorldCom? And we all know that George Bush was close with his buddy Ken Lay, I think it was. But I'm not blaming George Bush. I'm saying it's just a very coincidental. It's very coincidental that World Trade Center 7 fell in the way that it did, and yet there was huge Securities and Exchange Commission paperwork that was going to prosecute Enron and WorldCom. Let's talk about the effect of 9/11 on our country. You know, without 9/11, they would have never been able to go into Iraq and Afghanistan. Without 9/11, they would have never been able to pass the Patriot Act. When the Patriot Act first passed, I got to tell you, I was like, whatever it takes to get the terrorists, I want to do. And if you have to listen in on my phone calls, I got nothing to hide. Listen in on my phone calls all you freaking want to, Mr. Government. Do whatever you want to. We got to get these terrorists. And, you know, with a little bit of thinking about it and stepping back and realizing what an idiot I was, the Patriot Act is one of the most evil things that's ever been perpetrated on the American public, with the exception of the Federal Reserve. But they're taking away our liberties, they're trashing the Constitution, and we're letting the government take away our privacy and our liberty. And 9/11 allowed them to pass the Patriot Act. 9/11 allows them to do a pretext for all the other things they want to do. And you may say, well, if you're saying that the government staged 9/11 to do all these things, that's pretty hard to wrap your mind around. But if you understand history and the history of the world, that there are lots of false flag attacks that have been used. Hitler used false flag attacks. The Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag attack. There are those that say that the president at the time knew that Pearl Harbor was going to be attacked and he didn't do anything about it. I'm not an expert in world history, but I know enough to know that false flag attacks have been used throughout history to make a people unite and to accomplish things for government that they normally would not have been able to do unless that they get the people thinking that they've been attacked. FBI translator Sybil Edmonds says that Osama bin Laden, the Taliban, and Al-Qaeda were working for the CIA on the day of 9/11. Let's keep going. Mike Bellone and Nicholas DeMasi said that the World Trade Center black boxes were recovered, but we don't know why they were not released. So those two guys claim, hey, we found the black boxes, but they didn't release them. If you watch Blueprint for Truth, which I highly recommend you do, you'll see that there's all kinds of eyewitness accounts. I forget the guy's name who was a janitor in the World Trade Center. His name is Rodriguez. I can't think of his first name. I can't think of his first name.
And he was just saying, just run for your life, just run for your life. And then it was like another 2-3 seconds, you heard explosions. Like, ba-boom! It's like a distinct sound. It's not like when the compression, like boom, 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 like floors that were dropping and collapsing. This was ba-boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground, like almost like you wanted to grab onto something. That, to me, I knew that was an explosion. There was no doubt in my mind.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. What did these guys experience?
We started running, floor by floor, instead of popping out.
It was if they had detonated. They were planned to take down a building. Boom, 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 boom.
All the way down.
I'm hearing boom, 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 boom. So, I think I know an explosion when I hear it. I was real close to Building 7 when it fell down. That didn't sound like just a building falling down to me while I was running away from it. There's a lot of eyewitness testimony down there hearing explosions. I didn't see any reason for that building to fall down the way it did. And a lot of guys should be saying the same thing.
But he talks about how there was explosions going all over the building. Do you know that the official report from the government doesn't even mention World Trade Center 7? You know, Ken Starr spent over $40 million to find DNA evidence on Monica Lewinsky's dress from Bill Clinton. $40 million, right? So Bill Clinton is a total sleazeball. The fact he's 40-something years old, I don't know how, you know, mid-40s, or maybe he was in his 50s, I don't know, and he's messing around with a 20-something intern, and they're, you know, he uses his power and influence to take advantage of Monica Lewinsky, and he's totally using his influence to take advantage of a young lady. She was a very young lady at the time, and Ken Starr spent $40 million, you know, to find his DNA evidence on her blue dress, but we can't find the time or the money to investigate why World Trade Center 7 fell? Are you kidding me? Is there not something wrong with the priorities? Seriously? Did you know that the entire NIST report took 3 years and only spent $20 million, only spent half as much as Ken Starr did? They didn't put any effort into finding the truth. The government did not do a comprehensive investigation. Let's talk about money for a little bit. Larry Silverstein, he took out insurance. He took out insurance policies on those buildings a few months before they had their collapse, and he made over $5.6 billion. He made $5,600 million, and we only spent $20 million on the NIST report. Do you not think that there's something suspicious? And you know that he even went to court and he made a case that there were 2 separate terrorist attacks. So he got what's called double payment on his insurance claim. Yeah, that's pretty good, right? He invested a few million and he came back. He made $5.6 billion on the collapsing of those buildings. Does that sound like maybe he sold his soul out? Maybe he sold his soul out. You ever think about that? Is that how much your soul? How much would your soul cost? If Satan comes up and asks you, "Hey, I'll give you $5.6 billion. All you got to do is sell me your soul," would you do it? You know, Satan walked up to Jesus Christ and said, "I'll give you the whole world," because he had the world to give, and he said, "I'll give you the whole world." And Jesus Christ said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Jesus Christ didn't sell his soul. You know, is your soul worth selling out for $5.6 billion? I think Larry Silverstein said, "Yeah, maybe it is." I'm just saying maybe. You know, the rubble of the World Trade Center, they put on a slow boat to China before anybody could collect enough samples. There were a few samples collected, but the vast majority of that crime scene got moved to China. Why couldn't they move it to a landfill in America? You can't tell me that, you know, we don't have some landfill in America where they could have put all that stuff? Are you kidding me? Why the hell did it have to get moved to China? That's not suspicious? You don't think it's suspicious that all the debris from the World Trade Center got put on a slow boat to China immediately? And only the supposed people who were doing the investigation only got like a very small amount, and not even, they only did it like after they cleaned up? Let's move on. You know, hey, we just had this major catastrophe, tragedy in America, right? And, we got all this debris of these buildings. What are you going to do with it? Hey, let's move them to China. Let's put all that shit to China. Sorry, I cussed. Let's move all that stuff to China. Who makes this stuff up, right? Are you kidding me? Why do we need to move it to China? You can't find a landfill in Texas somewhere to put it all, you know, so we can study it and have the debris for a later investigation? Let's put it on the boat to China. They talk about the hot fires, and the people that are technical will get into a discussion about the fires melting the steel. But steel is a heat sink. Steel is a heat sink. All right. Hey, I hear somebody at the door, and I'm going to have to stop for a second. Give me just a second.